Take up your bed and walk is what God gave me a few months ago. For some of you, your trauma is no longer your cage, no longer your prison. So pick up your bed of infirmity and walk. My son had been going through something that rocked his whole world, that tormented and consumed his whole being for about 7, 8 years or so. It's been really tough watching my child go from this wide-eyed child where anything and everything was possible to losing all hope. Many of us can relate because we were once wide-eyed children until the world took that away from us, until life experiences, until the realities of life settled in. This incident shattered all of his hopes and dreams. I felt like a failure because I could not protect him. My job as a mother, I felt, was to keep him safe, and I couldn't do that one thing right. That was my thinking. He was suicidal to where I once had to get the police involved because I couldn't reach him fast enough. He was living in another city at the time when I received an alarming call. Well, there were a few calls I received, a couple calls from two different people that they believed he was going to take his life. I called him, but he would not answer. He wouldn't answer his phone. So I dialed 911. The police arrived just in time, and he was later admitted into the hospital. When he moved back home, there were times I've had to talk him off the ledge. I remember when he was a little boy, he would often say,
"Mommy, I'm going to beat the devil up."
and I would just chuckle. And then I had to explain to him that he couldn't fight the devil with his fists, not in the natural. And as he grew older, I had to further explain that there are certain battles that cannot be fought with your fists, but by taking a firm stand in your faith in God, and God will fight your battles. Now, he didn't understand it then, but I kept talking to him as my grandma instructed. She would always tell me,
"Never stop talking to your boys."
yep, just keep talking to them. My baby had the most beautiful smile, and I would always say,
"Don't let nobody take your smile."
when I tell you this situation took my baby's smile, he practically isolated himself from his friends, things he loved and enjoyed. His situation even now looks impossible, yet God had already started moving on what seemed to be a hopeless case. So God spoke to me that it's not over. And he told me that as my son does what I would have him do, I, meaning God, will take care of that impossible situation. Since God gave me that, I would occasionally check in with God to see if there was anything else he would have me give my son, like any further instructions, because I didn't want my child to miss God. My son was so checked out for a good minute that I wasn't even sure he would even hear God. I just kept praying. As time went on, I noticed my son was getting stronger. He felt lighter. The heaviness was passing. Although the situation hadn't changed, he was beginning to feel better. His resilience increased. He has his moments, his good days and bad days, but it's not how it used to be. One day after praying over him, God gave me instructions. He spoke this.
Take up your bed and walk.
Although it was a message for my son, or at least I felt it was a message only for my son, let me tell you, it was something my whole house grabbed a hold of, including me. So I told my son what God said. He didn't understand what God meant. I wasn't quite sure at the moment myself, but I am always confident that God will shine light on what He gives me. Maybe not right away. It may take some days, weeks, months, a few years, maybe a couple decades. But it's interesting. Like, why did God leave out the rise part? Jesus said, rise, take up your bed and walk, right? But He left out rise. Well, there is this inner work that needs to happen, right? Mental, emotional, before we can physically get up. Anything we manifest outwardly or physically starts on the inside, the mind, as well as the spiritual. So apparently that part, the inner work, was already done. The mind shift had already occurred. What's left is to pick up your bed and walk. Your bed of defeat is now a symbol of victory over that thing that once brought you shame, that once had you bound. Your bed of suffering is now integrated into your current state of being, your evolution. And understand that this version of yourself could not exist without the struggle, without the shame, without the sickness, without the hurt, without that bed of affliction. How many of you are still with me? We've done all the mental and emotional work, right? You've attended enough conferences and therapy sessions. You've read all the personal development books and watched all the YouTube videos regarding your situation. You don't have to quit working on you, on yourself. There are things that God brought to your attention about your mindset, your attitude, habits, addictions. So you got diligent with doing the emotional and mental work, the inner work, sorting out childhood issues and trauma, positioning yourself to release stuff you needed to release a long time ago when God told you to release those things. Now, some things are easier to release than others. Others may be emotional attachments that can take some time to let go. There is a process to getting to what God has for us, and there can be resistance, not just spiritual, but mental and emotional. For most of us, we are breaking free from generational poverty, mindsets, habits, curses, and those things run deep and can feel near impossible to break. Jesus didn't tell the man at the pool of Bethesda to leave his bed, but to take up his bed and walk. And the man did just what Jesus commanded him to do. First, he rose up, and then he picked up his bed and walked. Each action represents levels for complete healing. I'm going to do another video to dive a little further into this. When you overcome a situation or event, it never really leaves you. You take it everywhere you go because it is now an integral part of who you are, your story. But instead of your struggle having you, you have it. It is now your testimony. You have a story to tell about how you overcame, how you made it over. Your life is now the example and message of healing. You are no longer a victim, but a victor. You are no longer bound by that situation, even though externally it hasn't changed. You are already free. Because like I said, healing starts in the mind first. After that, honey, it's a wrap. You are already made whole. Now you just have to take up your bed and walk, which solidifies everything. Like the outside needs to reflect the inner work. The one thing I know is that God doesn't ask you to do something you can't do. Now, your situation is probably still the same, but you are no longer bound by your circumstances, your bed of affliction. You have already been made free. The man at the pool of Bethesda was immediately made whole when Jesus spoke for him to arise. And when he obeyed the voice of the Lord. The problem is not the first step where Jesus said arise, but the second and third steps. Take up your bed and walk. This is where we are stuck in the second and third steps. The man at the pool of Bethesda got up apparently because he was feeling better. I mean, he was strong enough to get up. Under normal circumstances, someone would need physical therapy. I mean, he was laid up like 38 years. We've been on our bed of affliction for so long, we don't know anything other than our bed of affliction. We really don't know what to do with ourselves when we are free. We are just standing by our bed of affliction, using it as a crutch, or keeping it close by just in case. Like,
what if my legs give out on me? What if I get tired?
It can even feel like there is this imaginary ball and chain that keeps us from drifting too far beyond the perimeters. We're free, but freedom is something very new and foreign to us. Some of us are complacent with just part of the miracle, or we can't see that our bed of affliction is no longer the issue, and we use it as an excuse as to why we feel we can't show up in life. But God just wants us to simply pick up our bed and walk. Do what He instructed us to do. We no longer have the excuse that we have no one to put us in the water. Do what we told God we would do if it wasn't for our bed of affliction. On the same token, some of you have risen up from your bed of affliction, and the first thing you did was leave your bed of affliction behind. You don't want your new identity wrapped up in your old situation. Maybe because it's embarrassing, dirty. You fear people may talk about you, judge you, criticize you. And believe me, there are people who will do just that. Understand that it wasn't meant for you to ever forget where you came from, what caused your pain. For one thing, if you did forget, you would keep repeating that same thing over and over again, right? Some of you may think, but we're supposed to forget those things, our sufferings. There is a song, and I don't know who sings it, where the singer says,
God will take the hurt and the memory of the hurt and make it as if it never was.
y'all, if you ever questioned whether or not you are healed, that's how you know beyond a shadow of a doubt you're healed. To forget doesn't mean you forget the incident, what someone did to you, or even what you did. It doesn't mean you act like nothing ever happened either. To forget means it's just not possible to restage, reenact, or reproduce the emotion from the event or the intensity of that pain. There's also this saying, you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. Every struggle I've come through only brought clarity, made my way, my purpose clearer and brighter. But no, many of us want to cut the ugly parts out of our lives, our history, but it's those ugly parts that build our character, our faith, wisdom, and strength if we let them. Too many people are embarrassed by the Cinderella or Cinderella man moments. They want to appear to others as if they've always had it together, like they've always been on top of their game. But we overcome by the word of our testimony. If you really think about it, that's kind of like self-rejection in a way, because you are rejecting the most crucial part, the ugly part, which you consider the ugly part. The ugly part is what brought you to this place in your life, and it keeps us humble, grounded, and honest. But most of all, God wants to use that ugly part of your life for His glory, not so that we get the glory. Healing is being able to embrace all of you, even that really horrible moment in time, with tenderness, love, humility, and self-acceptance. It's the good, bad, and ugly that makes you who you are. And if you can accept all of you, who you become and are becoming, make you a more effective witness to the power, the grace, and the love of God. The most powerful part of what Jesus did for all humanity wasn't His birth, the miracles, His messages, although they were all beautiful, powerful moments of His life. He is most celebrated for His resurrection. But there would be no resurrection without the most horrific part, the cross, and all the events leading up to the cross. God wants to resurrect some things in our lives, our hopes and dreams. But we have to take up our bed and walk. If this message resonates with you, then your season of being in bondage to your bed of affliction is over. Life is still happening, and it's all working out. The good, bad, and the ugly, they are all working out for your good. There is a time and a season for everything under the sun. There was a time your situation had you sitting on the sidelines, but now it's time to get in the game. Listen, if you've been indulging in distractions, I know I have, and escapism, yep, that's me. Maybe you feel that your reality or situation isn't ideal right now, yet you feel this nudge to get moving. That's God trying to get your attention. He wants to do something amazing through you and desires for you to experience the fullness of what He has for you, despite what's happening in the world around you. He wants to give you beauty for those ashes. Listen, somebody out there needs your story. And honey, you have a story to tell. It's time to pick up your bed, your story, your testimony, and walk. That bed of affliction can be heavy, but you've conquered it. It's been nailed to the cross. Now it's time to respond to the call of God on your life.